Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar on how to increase your project success rate with design thinking in partnership with In Progress Design Lab. Your presenter is Rafal Charne, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. And so, Rafal, can you please briefly introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. Hello, everyone. I'm Rafał Czarny. I'm lead author of the DTMethod methodology of design thinking. I'm design thinking user since 2009 when I started to work on development programs, training games, and business simulations. Through the years, I designed and supported designing several motivational systems, solutions for human resources, for example, improvement of reputation process, and product descriptions for project management teams. For example, lately we've designed a building which will be built by one of our clients. I believe in a human-centered approach and evidence or data-based approaches as well. I hope we will spend a good time together this evening.
Okay, thank you, Rafal. So before we get started, I just want to run through a few important points. The session today is being recorded and you will receive the recorded file by email. Please submit your questions at any time. We'll aim to respond to all of them to answer all the questions at the end of each section. And as always, your feedback is welcome and very valuable to us. So please send us any comments you may have. Okay, so over to you, Rafal. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Tai. Thank you for that introduction, and hello everyone. Hello everyone again. During this meeting, I have three main topics to present. At the end of the webinar, there will be Q&A session when I will answer your questions. But as Tai said, your questions which you submit on the chat, we will manage at the end of each section as well. The topics for today are, first, these are benefits of design thinking. I want to show you why design thinking is very useful and valuable approach. Second is definition of design thinking. I will focus on the project context in defining this approach. And third, I will explain what is methodology of design thinking, the DT method. So these are the main topics which I will go through the webinar. Let's start with answering the question, why do you really need design thinking? Why there is a need of implementing design thinking in organizational processes. But before I start talking about my knowledge or sharing the data, the statistics, I'd like to ask you three questions, and I don't see your individual responses to those questions. So if you don't know the answer, just try your luck, and I will start the polls with these questions. Let's start with the first one. What do you think? How many startups fail? I'm launching the question, and let's have 20 seconds, maybe 30. It's not hard. Okay, 80% of you voted. Great. Okay. We will check and compare your answers to the statistics after all three questions. So now I'm closing that one, and I'm starting the second one. The second one is how many IT projects are closed or abandoned? And let's have 20-30 seconds. Okay, thank you very much. And now the third question, how many changes in Poland do not achieve the assumed goals? Great. Okay. Thank you very much for your answers. Now we will go to find out what data tells and what did you think. So I will now answer those questions and compare with your answers. First one, 92% of startups fail within 3 years. So 3 years gives 92% of startups to fail. And now let's see what was your answer. As you can see, 47% of you told 70 to 75%, 44% of you 90 to 95%, and only 8% 50 to 55%. So this is a really large amount of startups which are failing. And it shows that there is a lot of room for improvements. The second thing is the result of the Standish Group, their research. Only 31% of all initiatives are successful, so they achieve their goals in time and in budget. And the great part of IT projects fail, almost 84%. 31% of those projects don't develop the final product at all. So, projects are closed or abandoned. It's the 31%. And most of you were correct. It's very big number, huge statistics that 31% of projects are closed or abandoned without producing any product. And the third statistic, in 2021, 70% of changes managed in Poland failed to achieve the assumed goal. And let's see, how did you answer? And 48% made correct choice, 70 to 75%. 42% thought it is less, and 10% of you told that 30 to 35% changes managed in Poland failed to achieve the assumed goals. So as you can see, the data shows that there is a lot of room to improvement, in the case how the organizations work, how we develop, and how the organizations should work. One of the main reasons emphasized by researchers are people. Clients don't use the products developed by the project because there was lack of users involved during the project, lack of their input. So project team didn't know what they should provide in their project management process. People see change as a hostile to them, and it shows why the changes didn't achieve assumed goals. People don't feel support from executives and leaders. People don't feel sense of urgency of change, so they don't invest their time, effort to help the change to implement. and stakeholders don't see the change or products is necessary to them, they don't need it. They don't have the feeling that they need that product or change or product of that project. Design thinking, which is the topic of our today's webinar, addresses those problems. Design thinking is human-centered approach which is focused on stakeholders' needs and meeting those needs. Using design thinking will increase the probability of creating useful, important, necessary, and as much friendly as it is possible products. So design thinking is the approach which tries to focus on people, to think about the users, to think about clients, think about employees, stakeholders, etc. So that's the answer of the problem, addressed problem. McKinsey Design, which is the part of McKinsey advisory organization, performed study which showed very strong correlation between investing in design practices and revenue growth. As you can see on that slide, through the years, the companies which invested in design practices got higher and higher incomes than companies which didn't invest in design thinking or design practices. After 5 years, 10% was revenue growth of organizations investing in design practices. When in the same 5 years, only 3 to 6% was growth of revenue of organizations which didn't invest in design practices. So this is very huge difference. It's almost twice more revenue growth when you invest in design practices, when you use design thinking, or when you try to use any of these methods. There are more studies showing benefits of design thinking. There is a Forrester organization which made a study in IBM projects. This study is very huge. You can Google that. It's open to find. This study shows a lot of benefits from using design thinking. Some of them are that the time required for initial design in project management was slashed much more than the half. Design thinking made possible faster time to market, human-centered design improved product outcomes, reduced the risk of costly failures, and increased portfolio profitability, which is very important for every organization. If we do things, if we manage projects, changes, programs, we want to increase our portfolio profitability. So this is very important statistic. Well then, if there is a question, do you really need design thinking? The answer is yours. However, I choose to use design thinking over not doing that because statistics do their things. So there are methodologies which help to develop the product during the project management process. You may know a lot of those methodologies. There is Agile PM, Prince2, Praxis, Scrum, PMI. All of them helps to manage workflow during the project to fit the quality, time, or budget. So the main goal of a project is to deliver the product which was described in a more or less specific way at the beginning of that project. If project management team don't understand the aim of created product, or people in the team understand this aim differently, then the final product will be developed correctly in project management terms, maybe, but there is very high risk that the organization will not benefit on that product. It's because project management team didn't understand the context of the product. The organization will benefit much more if the project management team will understand why the product should work in the chosen way. So this is the very important thing. Conducting design thinking processes before a project management provides visualizations of the product which will be developed in the project management process. Design thinking provides prototypes. Prototypes are very easy visualizations of the working product or service. And those visualizations, I will go back to that, what prototypes are and how they look like when I will show you one case study. But those visualizations have very contextual information about the product of the project. It is stakeholder needs which should be satisfied, which should be met. It is common that the solution developed in design thinking is changing during the project management. But those changes and decisions made in project management process are based on knowledge about the purpose of the project. Making and conducting design thinking process before the project gives those consciousness for the project management team to make correct decisions which are focused on benefits from the product when it will be launched after the project management process. So the project team is no longer talks about changing the functionality of the product without understanding it, but refers to the user's needs and tries to meet those needs, even if you need to change something which is important for those stakeholders. You have in your mind that there is a need of stakeholder, and you know that need because design thinking gave you that understanding. So design thinking and project management is the perfect marriage, which is the couple when design thinking is before project management methodology or process in organization. That's the first part of the first topic of our webinar. Now let's move to the definition of design thinking, and let's place it in project management context. But before we start, I have some statistical questions to you, just to get to know your familiarity and expertise of design thinking approach. And I will start the poll with those questions. First one is, have you ever participated in design thinking workshops? So let's have 20 seconds. Okay, thank you very much. Now the second question, have you ever used design thinking in your work? Great, thank you very much. And the third question is, are you willing to use design thinking in your work? Okay, great. Thank you very much for your answers. Let's see the results. So the first question was, have you ever participated in the workshops, in design thinking workshops? 40% of you did, 60% of you did not. I believe that you want to know more about design thinking and to feel it on your own skill, on your own skin in the future. Let's see, how was the second question? So have you ever used design thinking in your work? 40% of you have used, 31% didn't, and 29% don't know if you used design thinking. So again, the majority didn't use or don't know if they used the design thinking. Great. And are you willing to use design thinking? Is 77% of you yes, 21% of you need to know more before deciding, which is 98% of you are willing to use design thinking, which is very good for that webinar and for your presence here. 2% of you know, or they still think that they don't want to use, but we will do everything to show them that it might be useful. So this is how it worked. Great, thank you very much. Now we move to definition of design thinking and to define what design thinking is. So design thinking is an approach where the team is going to find a solution for a challenge, for a specified challenge. The team, during meetings, the design thinking process lasts a few meetings. So the team, during meetings, conduct activities to understand the challenge and to find the best solution for this challenge. They work and they make mysterious activities to find the solution. This is fast, low cost, and human-oriented way of work. So these are, let's say, kind of principles of design thinking. It should be fast, it should be low cost, and human-oriented during the whole design thinking process. One of the accurate design thinking models is the double diamond model. It was developed by the UK Design Council in 2004. It describes design thinking as alternating cycles of divergent and convergent thinking. Alternating cycles of divergent and convergent thinking, which go through the two diamonds of that model. The first diamond is problem diamond and second is solution diamond. Divergent thinking is focused on exploring and expanding knowledge, making researches as much as possible, and it works in that way in the problem diamond. In solution diamond, it is about generating as many ideas as possible for a solution. So in problem area, we work to get as much knowledge about the problem, about the challenge as much as possible. During when we move to solution diamond, divergent thinking is focused on developing as many ideas as possible. The convergent thinking is focused on narrowing, focusing, analysis. So in problem diamond, when you as a team found a lot of knowledge about the problem, about the challenge, you made stakeholder research, you tried to understand your stakeholders. Now you make analysis to find what is the real problem or what needs of stakeholders are the most important, on which needs, on which parts of the challenge you should focus when you develop solution. And during solution diamond, when divergent thinking, as I said, you develop as many ideas as possible, and during convergent thinking, you try to find the best ideas. You prioritize them. You try to find which of them will be most impactful for the challenge. You ask stakeholders how they feel and how they see those ideas. You prepare prototypes, you test those prototypes on the stakeholders just to check if that solution really will meet their needs. And why it works in that way? So it is very natural that our brains try to shorten the way of finding solutions, because when I will ask you a question, you have in your mind a lot of answers, maybe not a lot, maybe 2 or 3, but we are trying to answer the problem very shortly. But this leads to development of solutions that will not necessarily solve the problem, or those solutions might be just ineffective. For example, if you want to reduce the employee turnover, you might get first ideas in your mind. For example, raising the salary, providing health package, etc. But during design thinking process, you need to check in diamond problem why people leave your organization. And when you get that answer, you can find solution on that answer. During design thinking process, it is very important to focus on stakeholder needs, understand their perspective. And this is the problem diamond, which is the first part of working design thinking. In solution diamond, you address those needs. And coming back to the example of the employee turnover, if you found that your line management lacks of the people management competencies, raising the salary or providing health package will give you nothing except the higher costs. The solution should be focused on the line management competencies just to help them manage the people in better way, that they will not leave organization so fast. So this is how it works. When you connect the design thinking with pre-project phase in that way, you can get basic description of a product, which will be developed in project management process, and thanks to that process, design thinking process, the product will be well understood by the project team, and there is much less misunderstanding of the project goal. The product description is supported by visualization, prototypes mostly, and feedback from stakeholders, because prototypes developed in design thinking are tested with stakeholders. So stakeholders give their feedback to that prototypes, and we can improve those prototypes. We can add something to the prototype, to the idea which we are developing during design thinking process, or we can remove something from that solution, and this is standard way of work. It makes more clear why the product should work in described way, and gives context for the whole project team. And all of that helps to understand how the product should work. It gives more confidence during project lifecycle, especially when changes in the product during project management process are needed. So those changes during project lifecycle are made more consciously. And now one example of using design thinking, it is one of the processes which we 2 or 3 weeks ago finished with our client. We have worked with the Bahlsen Poland Ltd. This is part of the Bahlsen family. Bahlsen is an international sweet biscuit manufacturer. They produce sweets known all over the world, such as Hit and Leibniz. Their challenge was not connected with the sweets, but it was to design a new building to be built and put into use in 2 years. It is building for their employees, so for people who work in their organization. During the process, I've worked with 30 people from the Bahlsen Poland. So it was really huge process. It was really a lot of things to do. But we've set 3 teams from those almost 30 people, 3 teams, and those 3 teams conducted stakeholder research. So they asked their colleagues from organization what they need. They analyzed the research results, so they analyzed why their colleagues need something from the new building, how it should work like. They created prototypes. I will show you how those prototypes looked like. And those prototypes were tested in some cycles, some iterations. And after some iterations of improving prototypes and testing prototypes, these solutions was proposed to steering committee, which decided to start the design process at the beginning. So the thing what you can see on that slide, these are elements of the prototypes. Prototypes are simple illustrations, and in that case, these are illustrations of what offices should be located. So you can find that there are names of the rooms and who should work in that room. Where should be the conference room? Where the communal rooms should be placed, etc., etc. So you can see on the slide that it's very simple, very easy visualization. There was no architecture in the team, so those were people who just put on the paper the solution which addresses their needs. The teams developed 5 prototypes, so there was a lot of propositions how the building should look like, what should be in there, at which floor which team should be placed, which department should be placed close to the near other department. So there was a lot of propositions which were addressing and meeting needs of stakeholders. And those prototypes were proposed to the steering committee. Steering committee agreed to very big part of those proposals, but not to all of them. Not to all of them, and it is completely okay, because in design thinking, we don't have, okay, it is completely okay, because some proposals created in design thinking couldn't be taken into account because of the time, because of the cost. Some proposal might be not feasible to implement as well, but we've spent 4 meetings, 16 hours totally, and during the 16 hours, they developed very specified prototypes, and now steering committee can decide and make that decision consciously how the building should work like, not only look like, but to work like. And that consciousness is the most important part of the process. Project management team know exactly what and why people need, and the project is targeted not only on building the building, but on the employees' needs as well. So those employees' needs are very important part. It will be great place, the building which they will build will be a great place supporting business processes and people's needs. It will be much better place to work if over the scenario when design thinking wouldn't be conducted. The effects were used by architects to develop the buildings design, so now architects are working for this very specified architectural design and plans, and we are waiting for the new building. There is a lot of organizations adopting design thinking. Those which can be officially found when you try to find in the browser are IBM, Uber, Intesa San Paulo, Ducati Motor Holding, Apple, Bank of America, Deutsche Bahn Operations, Rotterdam Eye Hospital, Ericsson, Airbnb. A lot of different companies can use design thinking in their way of work. And now we are moving to answer the third question, the last question, how to use design thinking. There is a lot of different advices about using design thinking in the web. You can find it when you put to Google or any browser the design thinking phrase. You can find billion of answers. But sometimes if you read them all, there are conflicting informations. Sometimes there are not specific enough for implementation. And this part of the webinar is about introducing you methodology of design thinking, which we developed, which is named DTMethod. But let's start from defining what the methodology is, because we want to be very clear and specific to name what we created. So the idea of design thinking methodology works in the same way as other methodologies and ideas of methodologies. For example, project management methodologies. Project management is the discipline of planning, executing, and completing projects. It is kind of approach or discipline, as that definition said. There are project management methodologies such as Agile PM, Prince2, Scrum, PMI. Those methodologies exist to help conduct project management in organization. And that. It works similarly to design thinking. Design thinking is a discipline or approach to help conduct the design thinking processes in organization. Methodology might be more than useful because the methodology gives you specific structured way of work. Methodology is a recipe for the work. It's a recipe for implementing design thinking. The methodology fits business and project management processes to help make it, to help to put it into use. So now I present design thinking methodology, which is called the DT method. DT method is a set of tips and hints helping in providing design thinking processes in organizations. DT method gives a structure of DT roles, which help to understand different roles in design thinking processes and responsibilities which people should have during design thinking processes. So those roles are in DT method. For example, it's not all, but DT sponsor, DT designer, DT facilitator. So we have specific roles and responsibilities in the methodology. DT rules, which set the frame of thinking and acting during the design thinking processes. DT rules are principles of design thinking and acting accordingly to those rules should be followed during the whole process, and it helps to achieve the goals. There are DT tools in DT method. These tools are selected and tested tools and techniques to use during design thinking processes. We've spent really a lot of time to test them, to test if they work correctly, what should be done or what shouldn't be done during design thinking processes, just to have this good time investment during workshops when the team work. And DT model, which helps to schedule the work and shows the flow of the process during whole design thinking process. Altogether, all those parts of DT method, DT roles, DT rules, DT tools, and the DT model makes using design thinking easy and predictable. And this predictability is very important part, because if you try to find a description of design thinking, quite often you can see the chaos word in those descriptions. We've conducted a study with scientists from two well-known universities, SWPS University of Social Sciences and Humanities and AGH University of Science and Technology. During the study, the teams which were participants in the study were creating solutions for Ask Challenge. There was a lot of teams, and all of them were developing solution for the Ask Challenge. It was the same challenge for all teams. Half of those teams were using DT method, and half of them any other method, whatever they thought or they felt it will be effective. The solutions were developed by those teams, were assessed by independent competent judges, and the results of this study shows that the solutions created by the DT method teams were more applicable, and more applicable means that they were more possible to develop. They were more useful, which means that it helped to deal with the challenge more and better than teams which didn't use DT method. those solutions were more valuable for business, which means that it gave more value to organization. And the last, from the most important differences, the solutions developed by DTMethod were more impactful on the challenge, which means that the solution developed by using DTMethod will help to achieve the goal. It means that DTMethod might be very good support for any project management process in every organization, because we are working in project management processes to do applicable, possible to develop, useful, valuable, and impactful products. And DTMethod gives you opportunity to do that. In that case, DTMethod is for all individuals and organizations who or which want to increase project success rate and benefits from created products, have or don't have experience in design thinking, because DT rules, DT roles, DT tools, and DT model lets you use that method without having experience in design thinking before. Value time and effort of people who participate in the workshops or in any activities in organization, want to participate in activities which provide impactful and meaningful changes and products, and prefer predictability and order over chaos. So this is DTMethod is created for you if you find yourself in any of that points. It is useful to project managers, program managers, change managers, product owners, scrum masters, facilitators, agile coaches, and everyone who is a part in designing solution and project management. So this is methodology very wide for a lot of people. Okay, so that was my last my last sentence in case of the webinar. I'd like to ask you one last question. How much would you like to try use DTMethod in your work? And I will start. I will start the poll right now. Okay. Five seconds left. Okay, thank you very much. 73% of you answered the poll, which means that a lot of you stayed till the end of the webinar, which is quite a success. And the results: 33% of you definitely want to use DTMethod. I'm very glad. 30% of you probably, 60% possibly, and 11% not sure. It's very promising, And for everyone who is not sure, or possibly, or probably, or definitely want to use DTMethod, we have a special offer for you. In progress, set 5 online DTMethod Foundation training course dates, and each of you, each participant of that webinar, have 50% discount on this training courses and exams. Provided by APMG International, but there is a limit of 12 people per training course only. if you want to use that offer, is to go on the page link on the slide. We will share that link with you after the webinar as well. Choose the DTMethod Foundation English training date. Enter the discount code, which is Let's Design, and each training date is for 12 people, so only the first 60 of you can use the discount. So that's the special offer for all of you. And now we are moving to Q&A session. We are moving to Q&A session.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Rafael, and thank you everybody for your questions. We've got a few in the chat. So the first one is, my apologies, let me just open them up. In one or two sentences, how does DTMethod fit or align with project management? And then it continues to say, in other words, where exactly in the project lifecycle would one apply DTMethod, and what would be the inputs and outputs of such application?
In one or two sentences, it's very hard, but I will try just giving few main points. We have the roles in the DT method. One of these roles is DT sponsor. DT sponsor should be a person who gives the challenge, who defines the challenge for the DT team. DT sponsor should be a part of project management team. For example, a person from steering committee or a person from or project manager. It depends what project management methodology you use in your company. But DT sponsor is the connection between project and design thinking, and the space of the challenge, okay. The scope of the challenge is defined by, if DT sponsor is connected to the project, the scope of work of design thinking team is defined by a project. So the product of design thinking will be the product description for the project. We place DT method in the pre-project phase. If you sprint to the pre-project phase, to develop the solution of design thinking. In DT method, the process and flow of that is very short. It's 3 to 4 meetings. 3 meetings if you work on site, 4 meetings, but shorter if you work online, and it's 16 hours of work for the team, which should be partially connected to the project management team. So the people who are working on the solution in DT method will transfer that knowledge to the project management team. So these are some points of connection between design thinking and DT method and project management.
Thank you, Rafael. And then quite a few people actually asked for more information about the certification, the course, and also about as to whether there are vanilla materials available for them to have a look.
Could you repeat the type, please?
Yeah, sure. Yes, of course. Sorry. So they would like a little bit more information about the course, the certification, and whether there is vanilla materials available that they could look at and just see what it is.
If they were, if those questions were asked by representatives of accredited training organizations, you can find the vanilla materials on the Huddle. Is that true, Kai?
Yes, I can help you with that one if you'd like. Yeah, so hi, so sorry, I'm Ty and I'm the product owner for DTMethod. So I worked very closely with Rafael to develop the certification. So DTMethod is available at foundation level. It is a 3-day course and we do have vanilla materials available in both English and Polish at this time. And if you would like to have a look, as Rafael said, if you are asking from an accredited training organization, if you can contact the accreditation team, they will be able to share the materials with you so you can have a look and get a more detailed understanding of the course.
Great. Thank you very much, Tai.
No problem. Just a couple more questions before we go. So one of them was, in other words, DTMethod is an alternative to user stories in Agile. Is that true?
DTMethod uses the tool of user stories in the process, but this is only one of the tools. One of the tools. User stories in Agile are very useful tool to understand the different stakeholders' needs, but it's still on the very high level of comprehension. What does it mean? During design thinking, we go further to develop visualization of a product on the building on the user stories as well, but we develop more specific and possible to see, touch, and understand interaction between user and the product. So this is during DTMethod we use that tool, but it's not the same as user stories in Agile. I hope that was clear.
Okay, we're actually getting a lot of other questions through, which I don't think we'll have time to answer them all. So Mark, can I quickly check that we can save these questions and get back to everyone later?
Yeah, absolutely, Ty. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. So we're just going to end here, but thank you very much, everyone, for all your questions. We will get to them. And so, yeah, don't be disheartened that you wasn't answered on the webinar. You can get further information on this next slide as well. There are a few links that you can access to find out more about In Progress Design Lab and DTMethod. I know that some of you have asked for the link for the discount again. And we will provide that with a recording, so you'll get all the information after the webinar. Thank you so much again, everyone, for joining, for all the questions, and thank you, Rafael, for an amazing presentation. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much. It was real pleasure being here with you, and hope to see you somewhere, sometime. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.